Why was the Swedish Carolean army ultimately unsustainable? Imagine a small nation with a mighty army trying to hold its ground against larger neighbors. That was Sweden during the early 1700s, especially during the Great Northern War. The Carolean army was famous for its discipline and fierce tactics, but it couldn't keep up forever. The core issue was that Sweden's population was quite small, so it simply couldn't produce enough soldiers to replace those lost in battle. The army was built on the allotment system, which meant soldiers were recruited from specific regions and depended on local land for their pay and equipment. This system worked well when wars were short, but during a long conflict like the Great Northern War, it became a problem. As battles raged and casualties mounted, Sweden struggled to find enough men to fill the ranks. Their economy was mainly agricultural, with limited industry, so producing weapons, uniforms, and supplies on a large scale was tough. The army relied heavily on quick, decisive victories, but when the fighting dragged on and enemies avoided open battles, the Swedish tactics lost their edge. Logistically, the vast distances and harsh climates of Russia, Poland, and Ukraine stretched their supply lines thin. Resupplying and reinforcing the army became increasingly difficult, especially as the war went on. The aggressive Carolean tactics also meant high casualties, which Sweden couldn't easily replace because of its small population. When King Carl XII died in 1718, the army lost its bold leader. Without his daring vision, Sweden lacked the strategic direction to continue fighting. The country's resources had been drained, and morale was low. So, in the end, the Carolean army's structure and the country's limited resources made it impossible to sustain a prolonged war from home. The very system that had made Sweden powerful also set the stage for its decline. The war showed that a small nation with a limited economy and population could win battles, but couldn't keep fighting forever against larger, wealthier powers.